Hello and welcome back to Let's All Laugh At, the football podcast that thrives at someone else's expense. I'm George and I'm joined by Johnny and Andrew and our first guest for quite a while. It's a big one, biggest one so far. Brighton and Hove Albion fan, extraordinaire, founder of Seagulls Social. Ryan, how you doing, mate?
That's quite an intro for me there.
Always like to big up our guests as much as we can. Been a long one in the making, this one. That's part of why most of these have been pushed back. Just trying to organise times and that. But we're here finally, a lot to talk about. So only one place to start, really. We always like to sort of, before we get into the actual games, like to sort of sum up the team as a whole. That's where we get fans on for different perspectives. Sum up Brighton as a whole, really. I mean, it's been same old for a very long time, really. I mean, what have you made of the start of the season and the last few months, last year or so?
As you say, pretty same old. We've been dominating games consistently almost. You know, we've been going into games like United, a game where we're not expected to win by any means, but then we come out of it really disappointed with. But yeah, no, it's been one of those ones where it's been very frustrating. I think it's hard to blame, Graham Potter for this. I think it's one of those where we've got to sort of look at the players, because it's obvious that Graham's, sort of got the players playing some sort of football that we would never have seen before. And now, obviously, we're playing games, we're dominating games, we're having plenty of shots, but they're not going to be the biggest issue for us. And once we start managing to get those shots converted to goals, that's when things change.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's just a case of having loads of the ball and looking the better team for a lot of the games and just not being able to finish. I mean, to be fair, some of it is just genuinely bad luck, like the United game. I mean, I still to this day don't know how they won that match with all the, the VAR controversy and all that. We won't get into that again, for the sake of for your own sanity and for the that we've talked about it before. Yeah, Johnny, I mean, as someone who has supported a team that's historically known for playing good football, all right, Brighton don't have the world-class players that you had in the likes of the Invincibles era, but, can you sort of see what are Brighton sort of lacking that is sort of is not taking them to that next level, aside from obviously scoring goals? Like, what is it they could be doing better, do you think?
Well, I don't know, because whenever we play them, they seem to beat us. So, honestly, they're a bogey side for us at the moment, Brighton. We can't beat them. They're a good side. I mean, that Man United game was beyond a joke. I still understand that was handball. But yeah, Brighton, they're a good side. Got some good players. I like that Trossard. I really like he's a decent player. And I like the Iranian. Is it you can Bash? Is that his name? So I said it wrong. But yeah, I like Neil Maupay as much as I dislike him, but I like him at the same time. I like play. He's sort of player, Neil Maupay, but if he plays for you, you love him. Play against him, you hate him. That's
yeah, I've said the same thing for a long time.
I like him. I think he's a nuisance, isn't he? Like he gets in good positions. He's kind of like that player. He doesn't score a lot of goals, like Premier League goals, but he kind of reminds me a little bit, but better, like a Shane Long sort of player. Like he just doesn't stop running, and I do like him.
Lamptey, I mean, the times I've watched Brighton, I thought Lamptey was their best player. I mean, when we played you guys, I'm a Newcastle fan, by the way. When we played you, he tore us apart. He's been quality, hasn't he? He scored as well the other day.
Getting himself into these sort of attacking positions now. And it's a right back role that we haven't really seen. We've had Bruno, who was fantastic, don't get me wrong, but he didn't have the pace that Lamptey has. And I think Lamptey was amongst the top 10 in Europe. I think he was actually ahead of Ronaldo one week, which is just incredible. Something like 36, 37 kilometres an hour in a sprint, which is just unbelible.
How much did you getting for? Because I know he made his debut for Chelsea, and then they had higher hopes for him, but then he just suddenly joined Brighton.
In a contract that he rejected purely because of the Reece James situation. He sort of had that role, didn't he? He had the right back role pretty much set in stone. I think Lamptey's shown that what young players should be doing is going to perhaps a smaller club and getting that experience and getting that game time and really starting to flourish. But yeah, I think we picked him up for around 3 million. I think it was an initial 1.5, so absolute bargain.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Graham Potter before. I was talking on Twitter about how with the sort of form that Brighton are in, he could, I'm surprised if he's not coming under pressure. We had a little bit of an argument about that. Just to be absolutely clear, I'm not saying he should get the sack, because I think, like you're saying, a lot of it is out of his control. He can't control if, what the referees do, for instance. But I was more so talking about the sort of culture that we're seeing in football nowadays, of how if results don't come, clubs do like to pull the trigger very quickly, albeit Brighton haven't been like that in recent years. Even with Chris Hughton, they didn't wait until the end of the season to get rid of him. So they're not. I know they're not the sort of clubs to do that. I was just mainly thinking about, like it is getting to that case for Brighton where they do seem to get the results when they need it. To be fair, I don't think they've been in the relegation zone for something like, since August 2017 or something like that. Yeah,
2017. But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying about Potter, but at the same time, as I say, it's not his fault. I mean, he can't physically finish Mopé's chances for him. He can't physically be in the box and tucking them away for anyone. He's doing what he can do. He's making the team play the way that they are. I mean, let's face it, our team, it isn't exactly the highest of quality. I think if you saw Graham Potter at a big club, if he was in charge of United right now, he'd be getting the best out of those players, and I honestly believe that. So I think it's difficult to say that Graham Potter should be under fire, but yeah, results-wise, it's not looking very pretty at all.
I think the lucky thing you guys have is Sheffield United, Fulham, Burnley, and West Brom are worse than you. So that should probably help, because there's those 4 teams. I know Fulham beat West Brom, but they're atrocious.
As we're recording this, so I'm on to see Burnley at home, I think, for about 7 years. So they seem to be the sort of club I struggle against, to be honest.
I think Burnley as well, the sort of club that play a football that's difficult for you to play against, a bit like we do, where they're happy to sit back and let you have possession and soak up the pressure. They're not quite as fast on the counter attack as we are, but they have a lot more physical players, the likes of Barnes, Chris Wood, etc. So yeah, I think it will be a tough game for you then. Speaking of games, we mentioned the Palace Brighton game. I mean, that feels like such ages ago now, doesn't it? I mean, almost 3 weeks at this point. Pretty much summed both of our teams up. We literally had one shot on target for the whole game, which was the penalty, which I'll be honest, I thought it was a ridiculous decision. I didn't think it was a penalty at all. I also think the goal that we did score that was ruled offside was more of a goal than the actual penalty. But so maybe, swings and roundabouts, I suppose, but either way. And yeah, then you guys getting the equaliser in the last minute with McAllister. A lot of our fans are upset with the performance. I don't blame them, because obviously as a Palace fan, you want to see us having more shots against Brighton at home, and we didn't play well. But at the same time, I feel like we had the right approach to that game, because like I said, you are a team, again, if you sit back and stop their chances, they won't score that many. Brighton don't tend to score that many, and you can hit them on the break because their defence isn't the best either. That's normally how teams tend to beat Brighton, but we just weren't urgent enough on the counter-attack, really.
It's so frustrating. I think we had, 20 shots? But then with that being said, we didn't have any real clear-cut chances bar the Mopé chance, which I don't even know what he was trying to do there. He has a one-on-one, and he's trying to take it around 3 players instead. But yeah, it was a frustrating game trying to get my memory back into it now. It was a good strike from Alexis. It took a bit of a deflection, didn't it? But I think it was the least we deserved there to get a point.
How's Lallana been doing?
In particular, Tottenham, the last game. Lallana for me was man of the match. He just absolutely ran the show. I think it's what I've been saying for a while, that we need to have that experience. And sort of before, we were playing with Alzate and Bissouma, who, don't get me wrong, fantastic talent, but they need to be coached by someone like Lallana, who's been there at the top level and done it at the top level and can help these young players. So yeah, Lallana's been a great sign.
He hasn't really done it at the top level. He just watched the players do it.
It's a little bit harsh.
He spent a long time in the treatment room, but no, I think if you ask any Liverpool fan, they'll tell you that Lallana, on his day, he is as good as he can get, and I think we're seeing the best of him at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool fans were definitely rating the signing. I remember Liverpool fans were really rating the signing when you made it. I mean, Lallana sort of did break that structure you had of signing younger players with the potential to be better, Potter's style. I think, and on higher wages as well, Lallana. But I think, again, because you brought in, I don't remember you buying or bringing in a big name Premier League player and like the whole team since you've been promoted before that one. It was younger players and more potential. So I think it was a good fit to have in, like you say, and can mentor the younger midfielders likes of Alzate, McAllister, people like that. And I think that provided he could stay fit, we did go off during the Chelsea game, and I'm sure it probably gave you a bit of a scare there. But he seems to have turned it around in regards to that. And yeah, I mean, he can, if for your sake, hope he can continue it on. All right, so I mean, there's only other performances though. West Brom and Tottenham, not the worst performances in the world. I mean, West Brom second half was pretty dire, to be fair. But it was just I keep saying same old, but there's not really much else you can say besides that.
Probably the worst we've played this season, in particular that second half. First half, we should have been dead and buried. We should have been 2 or 3 nil up. We should have been coasting, but we weren't. Second half, it then puts pressure on them. Yeah, we just got absolutely battered second half. I don't even know what was going on, but to fair play to West Brom, they took their only chance, and to be honest, towards the end of it, they probably should have had another one. So.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be a big game against Burnley. I'll be interested to see how that one goes. And I think if, like you said, because it's a game that you don't have the best record in, I think if you can get a result there, it'll be a big confidence booster. And I know you're not really a team that works with momentum. Like even when you win a game, like when you beat Arsenal, like I think the next one you won after that was Norwich. I mean, I know you had a couple of good performances, but the results sort of it's a good performance a good result every so often in that case.
I mean, to be honest, well, no, saying that under Houghton, it was a bit of a momentum thing. I think we'd go 3 games and then we'd fall off and we'd come back for 2 and then go off again. But with Potter, I do agree. It's a bit hit and miss. But as I say, I don't want to slate him because I do like him and I like what he's trying to do. And I do think in the future, it's just taking chances right now.
Yeah. Okay, then. Well, we'll move on, and we'll go on to you next, Johnny, and Arsenal. You've had the most games out of us by quite a distance in the Premier League and the Europa League. To just rattle through them, Manchester City 1-0 at the Etihad, Rapid Vienna in the Europa League, Leicester at home losing 1-0, Dundalk a 3-0 win, and then most notably Manchester United last week a 1-0 win away from home. So how do you rate the last 3 weeks or so?
Well, I mean, against Man City, I thought it was a little bit unfortunate with our mate VAR. We had a blatant penalty we should have had, but it wasn't a bad performance. I don't think City completely dominated us. I just think they took that one chance and took it. The Dundalk game was pretty awful. I know, we won 3-0, but it wasn't great. Leicester, it was just one of them. As soon as I saw Jamie Vardy come on, I just knew he'd score a goal. That's what he does against us every single time. But against United, I thought we were superb. Well, we were good, but Man United were just utterly terrible. And when you go to Old Trafford, well, back in the day, you used to fear going to Old Trafford, but now it doesn't matter who you are. You go to Old Trafford, you can get a result because defensively they are so poor. And I'm sure we'll get to their defensive frailties later on. But yeah, honestly, yep. I thought we played really well. It wasn't vintage Arsenal by any stretch of the imagination, but we never looked like conceding a goal. I think United had probably had 2 or 3 chances. That was it, really. Yeah, it was a good performance, and it's good to see Aubameyang get a goal again. 5 games without a goal, but yeah, it's looking good. To be fair, Thomas Partey definitely he's repaid his 45 million already because what a player.
Wow, already? It's only been a couple of games.
I know, but honestly, he run that show, and another massive heads up to El Neni as well because he's a different player under Arteta. We've got Mouldy, whatever they're called tonight. So yeah, but yeah, it's going well. I'm more than happy at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan. Obviously, the lot's been made over Mikel Arteta, and similar to sort of Potter in a way, they've inherited squads on a bit of a downward slope, and they've sort of had to do a rebuilding job, a younger rebuild. What do you make in terms of what sort of similarities can you see between Arsenal and Brighton in terms of the management and the structure that the managers have put in place nowadays?
I think that Saka, he reminds me a lot of Lamptey in a weird way. They sort of play the same sort of thing, but yeah, Arsenal. I don't know what's going wrong at Arsenal. I think in terms of being right up there again, I think midfield-wise, they're not creating enough. And I don't understand. If I was in charge of Arsenal, I'd be thinking Ozil needs to be in there to be creating Aubameyang and Lacazette on his day, Pepe as well. You've got those quality players, but you're not normal and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Arteta job, I mean, I feel like I'm asking this question every week at this point, but how do you actually see the progress coming along, Johnny? Do you think because at some point, he's been here pretty much a year, and I think it's coming up to a year now. You need to start making progress back towards that top 4 as quickly as possible. Do you think you're on track? I
think it's a slow process, but I know we're in 8th at the moment, but we're only 4 points off of 2nd. So it was a big win at Man United on Sunday. I can see what Arteta's trying to do. I mean, I think a lot of the players are buying into what he wants. I mean, as for Mesut Ozil, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes of why he isn't playing. I mean, we need a creative midfielder, and there aren't many on his day that are better than Ozil. But
he's not very good anymore. Sorry, he was good back in like 2016 or something. He's been crap. Like he had that great game against Leicester last year, but he's crap now. He doesn't create anything. I just think he's got the best PR ever. He was a brilliant player in 2010 in the World Cup. He tore us to pieces. He's a brilliant footballer for Real Madrid, and he was good for Arsenal for the first couple of years. But he's crap now. He's not as good. He's not the same player anymore.
How long have you been holding that one for, Andrew?
He's just on like Fortnite all the time. Arsenal fans forget that when he was under Wenger, he used to pull out of games constantly with this little back problems when it was away games. He's like, oh, I'm going to pay for Gunnosaurus. He's on 350 grand a week.
Yeah,
he's being paid 200
well,
grand.
Let Johnny get a word in. He might be able to say something about it.
To say Mesut Ozil is crap. I mean, that's a. I can't disagree more than that, really, because I mean, he hasn't been as good for Arsenal over the past couple of seasons as he probably should be. And he's on 350 grand a week and blah blah blah. But I don't think him not playing for Arsenal is technically his fault. I think there's a lot going behind the scenes. Obviously, early on in the year with his comments about the Uyghur Muslims and things like that. I think that's a massive thing of why he's not playing at the moment. And I think like Arsenal, obviously a big brand out in China, and I think if we don't piss off China and then just take him out of the squad, that's what I think anyway.
Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when you guys played Chelsea in the Europa League final, he literally did not contribute anything to that match. Like, and then he got subbed, and it's all about him. Like, slumps off. I thought he was a great player, and he was brilliant, but he's not as good anymore. And if he was so good, why are clubs not going to try and get him? Like,
I imagine his wage is probably a quite big part of that.
Right.
I don't think anyone wants to pay 300 grand a week.
There would be like a lot of other clubs would be looking at him, but they've watched him and know he's not as good as he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, he is on an obscene amount of money, but then if someone offered me 350 grand a week to play 2 games a month, I wouldn't be saying no. It's a dreadful contract to give him, the board before now, but it is what it is, and if we could get rid of him somehow. Then they could free up more money, but I don't see him leaving because of the wages.
Yeah, I think the Ozil thing is that ship has sort of sailed, so to speak. I think they'll probably run down his contract, and Arteta clearly has no intention of using him anymore. So we'll probably be talking. It'll be a hot topic on here, I'm sure, while that goes on, especially if this pound's anything to go by. But yeah, we'll move on to you then, Andrew. It's been long. Newcastle have been up to a lot. Well, I say a lot. They've been up to a lot and very little at the same time since we last had you on. What have you made of your season so far?
It's not the most attractive football to watch, to be honest. I think the positives have been Darlow coming as a sub goalie and Callum Wilson's been very good. It's good the result against Everton was very good. The performance against Wolves was atrocious. It was daylight robbery, to be honest. We had 1 shot, 1 goal, and we really did.
Well, why does that sound familiar?
We didn't deserve. It's a bit strange, but I think Hendrick and Fraser were okay signings, solid Premier League players. But, I mean, realistically, we're going to probably come 13th, 14th. Not really going to be a very interesting season, to be honest. Highlight probably St. Maxim. Watching him play is, he's exciting to watch. But, yeah, I mean, Steve Bruce I think he's lucky in that there are, like I said, I think there's 4 teams who are atrocious in the Premier League at the moment, in that Fulham, Sheffield, Burnley, and West Brom, so we should be safe. Yeah, it's not. I think the Premier League quality has gone down a bit from under the top 6. So, and I think we're an example that we're not struggling because the quality has gone a bit down.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, you beat Newcastle at St James's. It's your only win of the season so far, but a very good win. I mean, Newcastle seem to be the team that, they're supposed to be good, very good defensively, but occasionally they'll just drop off and concede a load in one game. How do you? It's about trying to find consistency for them, I suppose.
For any team down the bottom, really, isn't it? Trying to find consistency. I think you could argue that. I think if you asked anyone from the bottom 6, they'd tell you the exact same thing. But yeah, that day against Newcastle was just, I think, to be honest, it was a day where they just couldn't work out Tarek Lamptey. They just let him completely destroy them, and let them tear him apart, because I think, wasn't it, St. Maximin went off after half an hour after getting completely bullied by him. I don't think I've ever seen a worse performance than St. Maximin's in my life, to be honest, in half an hour. But
you watch Harry Maguire.
You watch any Harry Maguire performance, yeah, it probably does top that. But no, yeah, with Newcastle, I think you're probably right. It's the consistency, but they made a good signing in Callum Wilson. I do rate him. I was quite jealous when they signed him, and people were saying, "Oh, maybe it won't work. 20 million is a lot of money." But I rated the signing, and he does look good. He's scored 6 goals this season. Mentioned for the England squad, but
Tammy Abraham gets in the England squad. He's hardly played, and Wilson plays every game. I mean,
yeah. No, well, we'll get to the England squad shortly. Don't worry. But yeah,
standard. Yeah, I think he's done really well, and I think for the price we got him at 20 million, when Joe Linton's 40 million, anything looks good at 20 million.
I mean, I've seen people saying, "Oh yeah, well it's because he doesn't fit Bruce Ball." By the neutral, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking potentially one of the biggest flops. So a club like Newcastle, a club that spending 40 mil, if you're spending 40 mil as Newcastle, you need to be getting a good return. To me, I just think, wow, I don't even know what's gone wrong now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it'll definitely go down as one of the weirder Premier League transfers of all time. But we'll give a bit of a nod. We'll give Palace a quick mention for a while because there's not much else to say about us really. I mean, a bit like Brighton, it's the same old. I heard someone say we're a team. We only have one game plan. We're a team that always plays away, and that's basically right. We set up to counter, and sometimes teams work. It works like against Fulham. Sometimes against Wolves it doesn't, which you'd think it would. I thought it would work against Wolves because they're the sort of team like us that do better out of possession. But the one game we have more possession in is the one game we lose. So, well, I say one game. It's not the only one we've lost this season. But, yeah, I think, to be fair, it wasn't a great performance, I have to say, the Wolves won. I think that the two fullbacks, Klein and Van Aanholt, made some pretty bad mistakes. But at the same time, I think Wolves are just a very good team. I know they're a bit inconsistent themselves, but I think they just had better players than us all over the pitch. So, it's a tough one to take. We've got Leeds this week, which I think will be another tough test. I'm sure Patrick Bamford is going to score against us because that's just how it works. It's mad to see how far he's come, but yeah, I don't know. I don't imagine. I mean, again, even if we do somehow go on the sort of awful form that we had at the end of last season, I think Andrew's right in that the 4 teams, 5 or 6, if you want to throw Newcastle or Brighton in there, I don't know. But either way, there's at least 3 teams in the league worse than us, so I don't think we have to worry about that, and I don't think we'll get sucked into the relegation battle for more than a couple of weeks, if that. So,
a mid-table fan, would you rather just get relegated to the Championship and have something to win, or would you rather just think, well, we're not going to win league, we're not going to come into the Europa League, but we're not going to get relegated, so are we happy?
I could ask you the same question, to be fair. But yeah, no, that's the sort of debate.
Relegation candidates, to be honest. I don't think we're by any means mid-table yet. I think we've still got a bit of a way to go before we can safely say at the beginning of a season we're not going to get relegated, because I say that with a straight face now, we're not going to get relegated.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. We're definitely more comfortable than you guys are, but also, you're all in that 14th, 15th sort of slot. So it's sort of like you're on the edge, but not quite there. But anyways, in terms of Palace, that is something, I mean, that's the discussion that's dominated our fan base for a long time. It's, do we actually want to take risks and risk going down? And I think in terms of Roy Hodgson, I think this is probably going to be his last season. I think he is obviously he's at the end of his contract. And I think fans are just fed up and they want a new direction. So, and I understand it because when it doesn't work, it is very frustrating. But at the same time, we do have to get the next appointment right because, I mean, ultimately, we've got a board that don't want to risk the Premier League whilst they're here. Whether it's because they don't have the financial backing or if it's just not how they want to operate, that's what we have right now. So I think we just sort of have to enjoy being a mid-table club. I mean, I think we have to look at clubs.
For all these clubs, like I find this as a Newcastle fan, what is the best thing that you can achieve? I started to think probably 9th, 8th. And maybe a good cup run.
Well, it's Europa League is what our fans want. They want a shot in Europe because they've seen clubs like Burnley do it on much smaller budgets and with much worse squads on paper. And it gets
even get into the Europa League.
Yeah, but it's still better than what I mean. I agree, but it's still better than what we did. And people, particularly after being in the Premier League, I think it's our 8th season now or 7th or something like that. So it's been a long time. So I'm not bothered. I mean, if we finish 12th every season for the next few years, that's fine by me. I'm really not that bothered personally. I'm happy to be in the Premier League, but I get slated for a lack of ambition, so I doubt this conversation's ever really going to go away.
I do think any club down there should be able to push for Europe. Like, I don't think there's any reason why you can't, because, as you said, Burnley did it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd like to see it happen. It's just, but I don't think that should be when you set that as the minimum bar, like some of our fans are doing. You're just asking for trouble then. I mean, I don't need to name how many teams have been too ambitious. But anyways, we'll move on because there's a few. Well, we mentioned the England squad before because it's been revealed. It was announced today. There's not too many changes. The notable one for me, the notable addition for me is Phil Foden. Obviously after the whole scandal was dropped after the last couple of games. Mason Greenwood not there though, or not that I could see. So I'm not sure. I don't know if he's injured or suspended or whatever, so he can't play. But either way, if it's not the case, then it's interesting you picked one and not the other. I mean, I don't really need to. I suppose I don't really need to ask your thoughts on it, Ryan.
I think it's quite known that I'm not a big Southgate fan, but you know, he's still living off the World Cup. We're still living off the 2018 World Cup. We've still got the same team as we had back then, and football moves too fast for that. You know, that's 2.5 years ago now. You know, players have changed, players have moved on. There's new players that are better players. You know, and I don't want to mention Dunk again. I don't think he does warrant being in this England team for the first time in probably a good year.
Wow,
but then you see the likes. I don't think he's been as good this year. Been our best centre back this start of the season. That Lamptey could have been in there, but then with that said, you know, you got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's pretty. Lamptey could have had a chance of that. I wouldn't say White. I probably wouldn't say Webster. So I can't really complain on that front. But yeah, the whole England team as a whole, it's just like I don't understand the logic behind it. We're picking favourites rather than players that are actually on form. And I guarantee as soon as the first starting 11 comes out, it's going to be the exact same Pickford, Maguire, etc. team that we've seen since 2018.
I don't understand how Tammy Abraham anywhere near that team. He's got one Premier League goal this season, and you've got players like Danny Ings, who's not in the team, makes zero.
On the pitch, really.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a little bit biased, but I know he's only 21, but surely if he's got a lot of goals this season, Eddie Nketiah's got that, but surely we called up. I don't understand how Abraham's anywhere near that team. He's utter dross. If he was playing for anybody else, he wouldn't get any, because he's playing for one of the top teams. That's the only reason why he's in that team. I don't understand it at all.
I think Bamford and Callum Wilson deserve a shot. And Nketiah scored against us last year. Has he scored that many goals in the Prem though?
I mean, he's scoring goals in the cups and stuff, and Europa League scoring goals. I just think, you know, he's
Europa League is like.
Well, no, you know, at the end of the day, if he's scoring goals in the league and in the cups and stuff, you know, he's scored a lot of goals for England under-21s. He's scored a lot of goals. So surely
he's on better form than Abraham is the argument you should be using.
Franny Jeffers scored a lot of goals for England under 21s.
Surely, you know, if Tammy Abraham scored one Premier League. I know he scored last night for Chelsea against Rennes, but surely you've got to pick players that you're a striker. Your job is to score goals. If you're not scoring goals, you should be in the team. You know, Danny Ings is scoring goals for fun. Surely he's got to be in that team. He's scoring so many goals, and he doesn't get a look in.
I think Ings is injured, to be fair, so I think he's out for about 4 to 6 weeks. So I think that's why he dropped him.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not going to be playing actually. Who's he playing? I've not even picked up with it.
Yeah, I haven't either. I haven't got the results on me, I'm afraid.
I've got a clue who's playing. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's the qualifier. I think Republic of Ireland is one of them. I haven't got the others up with me. But the one in terms of the strikers, the one that surprises me, the omission, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is Patrick Bamford. I mean, he's got 6 goals already for Leeds. I know he's only been in the league a couple of months. Maybe it's a bit early. I can understand the argument, but still, if you're going on form, and again, I didn't think I'd be saying that 5 years ago. You know, his loan spell with us seems a long time away now, but. Yeah, I mean, there's not much point covering this too much further because we say the same thing every time. You know, I think, you know, Southgate, you know, obviously former Palace captain, I want to root for him, but at the same time, you know, you've got to question the decisions. And I think I said before with the World Cup, I thought he was going to learn from it, and he looked like he had, and we would be able to take it forward with the Nations League games. But since then, it's just he's sort of slipped back into the same traps the old managers have been making, and you know, maybe it'll turn around someday, but for the time being, it's not looking good really.
So we've got Ireland at home, and then Belgium away, and then Iceland at home. So
yeah,
I think, although we did beat them, didn't we, last time?
Yeah, penalty in the last minute. Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, we're playing Iceland again. Yeah, because it's the Nations League, isn't it? We played them away, and now we've got to play them at home. Or was it at home or away?
Roy Hodgson there.
Well, I'll move on quickly before you can bring that up again. So before we get on to the Let's All Laugh At, the big topic that's been in the news for a couple of weeks now, which I've wanted to cover for a long time and haven't had the chance, is the PPV, pay-per-viewing, where basically the Premier League was charging £15 per match for all the games that weren't being televised normally on, Sky and BT and all that. So, and obviously this had a lot of fan backlash. Loads of people weren't happy with it. People saying it was a disgrace and all that. And I totally agree. I think, particularly for a game that's supposed to be the working man's game, 15 quid a game, like Andrew mentioned, for Newcastle versus Wolves is not anyone's cup of tea. But the club met about today, and there's talks of the fee being scrapped altogether. So, Andrew, I know your owner came out in favour of it, Mike Ashley, which, he comes out against it, but he also voted for it. So, work that one out.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to get a popular vote, to be honest.
Yeah.
But 15 quid in the moment with what's going on with COVID is just ridiculous. It's just crazy price, crazy cost. Like, how can you charge that much money? And I think the thing is I was surprised, I'll be honest, that the amount of money clubs spent this summer, because I thought COVID would mean people didn't spend as much. And I know they've reduced it a little bit, but still people were spending, Liverpool spent 35 million on Jota, lots of clubs are spending. Like, the fans just get cut out, like they can't even go to the games and they're getting ripped off as well now. So they just see the fans as cash cows, to be honest. I think till something is done, and I think it's good if they do scrap it, because like I said, 15 quid for Wolves Newcastle, I wouldn't pay that.
It's all done now. I think it's good that fans have actually overwritten that, and they've come through, really. 15 quid for a game. I personally, I don't understand it, and I think the whole hashtag boycott pay-per-view that was trending, I think, for a few days after it come out, it's actually worked. And I believe that for the Burnley game, I think it was only 74, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it was only 74 sales for one of the Burnley games on pay-per-view, which is just so. There's no surprise really when you look at the figures, and I think they refused to release the figures as well for the first round. So yeah, there's
Burnley are just a club, aren't they?
I was going to say it's a bit sort of does by itself that the Burnley game was the one that got like 70 viewers.
He's going to want to pay for Burnley.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was surprised that actually it worked. Like you said, they mentioned the hashtag. I was surprised that it worked and actually went through, because I said at the time that football was just so important to too many fans. A lot of them will just pay whatever it takes, to watch their team, even if they're not going to watch anyone else, just to watch their own team. Particularly the smaller clubs that are not going to be selected by the TV companies as much are going to be paying it more. But I guess I know it's one of the few times where a trend on Twitter actually makes a difference, but which I can't say I'm unhappy about. I don't watch that much football because I don't have any of the Sky or anything like that, and I'm obviously live miles away from my own club, so I haven't been able to watch football for a very long time, so it hasn't affected me particularly. But I know a lot of people do rely on it, so it is going to be good for them for sure.
About the whole, what you said about the whole Man United thing, how United I think were on a stupid amount of times last season, and I think they worked out that it would be 130 quid give or take if a United fan wanted to watch their games pay-per-view last year. So it only affected them by 130 quid. But if you're a Brighton fan and you wanted to watch last season's games that weren't on either Sky or BT, it'd have cost you around £360. That shows you just how ridiculous the whole pay-per-view scheme was, because it's affecting those who are top six fans, which I think most of the Premier League stuff does anyway. But yeah, I just don't get it.
Yeah, Johnny, I suppose we don't need to ask you. There's not much we can ask you more about it, but as an Arsenal fan who's probably going to be on TV the most out of any of our clubs, it probably affects you the least, but still an excellent decision.
Oh, absolutely. I won't pay anyway. 15 quid. I'd rather spend £15 to help my local food bank than pay them pockets of that. To be fair,
which we actually did. To be fair, Palace. There was a trend going around where a lot of Palace fans were donating the 15 quid that they'd pay for each game to the Croydon Food Bank. So, which I thought was really great, and I'm sure a lot of other clubs have been doing the same thing as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. £15 too much. It's the wrong time. It leaves a bad taste in the mouth. They could have done it so much better. If you do a £5 a game, if you're a member or whatever. But they didn't, and it's right, going to be scrapped, and it's a good decision.
Yeah, okay then. So I guess the only thing left is the Let's All Laugh At for this week. For those who are new, this is where we each pick something from the week that we found particularly funny, be it a player or club or whatever it is, and we just have a bit of a laugh at it. So we'll start with you, Andrew. First one in a very long time. What have you gone for?
Demba Ba scoring that goal. It was nice. I mean, I'm sure Liverpool fans got flashbacks of that goal when he went through and Gerrard slipped, isn't it? But yeah, it was. I mean, Man U's defence organisation was childish, wasn't it? It was like there's something you don't do is like when you're like 11 playing for school, you always make sure there's 2 or 3 people back on the halfway line. And Demba Ba's not young anymore; he's 35. Like it's just crazy.
Wasn't he playing in Turkey like last season as well, or was that actually? I think it was Cisse, not Demba Ba. I always get the two mixed up.
Yeah, they're both playing in Turkey. They both played in China and they both played in Turkey. Demba Ba had like a terrible leg break. He was an excellent player for Newcastle. He just when he went to Chelsea, he just was like he couldn't get in at the time because when they were playing Torres constantly when constantly playing badly. But yeah, it's Man U's defending is just, I mean, that's just criminal, really. For an 80 million defender just to not like organise or do anything, it's just.
Well, we've mentioned Harry Maguire multiple times on this show, won the award multiple times, so we won't beat that horse too much. We'll move on to Ryan. Have you got anything?
I'm going to go the whole refereeing performance of the Tottenham game. The whole thing, regardless of what side you support, whether you're a Tottenham fan, whether you're a Brighton fan, you're going to be looking at that ref and you're going to be thinking, my God, how has he even still got a job? The Kane thing, I think, if anything, it's a foul on Lallana. He's literally stuck his bum into him. He's fallen over the top of him. Lallana's literally looking at the ball. If you watch the game, if you watch the clip back, Lallana's, all his eyes are on the ball. Kane's literally looking at Lallana behind him. He's backed into him. He's fallen over. That decision was a joke. And then the fact it was given as a penalty as well when he's got half a pixel of his foot in the box. And then overall the diving, Kane, Son diving everywhere and somehow still winning free kicks. And it is calling it clever. And I'm just thinking, how come it's clever for them, but for some others it's diving? I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. And yeah, so for me, the laughable moment of the week is 100% that refereeing performance.
Son has done some of the worst tackles over the last year. He has dived constantly, and I think he's had 3 red cards as well. He gets away with this innocent persona.
Well, I was going to add to that by saying that, I mean, notice the difference when the media covers someone like Harry Kane, where it's just confusing the officials or inviting the challenge or whatever, compared to someone like Wilfried Zaha, who I'm not saying he's never dived before, but he does also get legitimate penalties as well, like the Wolves game the last week, and then gets slated for it when it's a clear foul. So it's blatant inconsistency from the media and the referees.
He does dive quite a bit, those Zaha as well.
I'm going to be ganged up on that one, so we'll move on to Johnny quickly. What have you got, Johnny?
Well, it was going to be Harry Maguire and his colleagues at the back last night, but I've actually gone for the Chelsea versus Rennes game last night, and quite frankly, how the ref gave a penalty after looking at VAR and gave a second yellow card for the handball. Do you know what? I was just gobsmacked how that was given as handball and a red card. It was just. It feels like that with the VAR. It almost makes me go, Joe, I'm fed up with football because it was just a joke how he can even look at it. He's 2 yards away, he smashed it at him. Is it his hand? All right, fine, but he can't move and then look at it and still make the wrong decision. It baffles the life out of me. And I mean, it's funny, but not funny because that game could have changed the game a little bit because Ren had a couple of chances and stuff, but it was just a joke. And it was funny, but not funny.
Yeah, it's not been. I mean, we've done the VAR, beaten the VAR thing into the ground. It's on this show, so I won't go into it too much. But it's not been a great couple of days. I mean, those 2 incidents were days apart. It's not been a good couple of days for that. I mean, Ryan, we haven't really heard your thoughts on it, so I suppose I've always said that you can't really blame the technology because the technology is just there to actually just be used as a tool. It's the actual officials themselves that are still using it. Well, you've still got the same officials there. Nothing's really going to change.
It's the rules, the handball rule which got changed recently, but I still don't even know the rules of it. The offside rule, where if you're a pixel of your elbows out of offside, then you're offside. yes, okay, it's the officials as well. They've been dreadful. I'm not going to back them whatsoever. I mean, I'm a Brighton fan, and look at the Solly March tackle goal. That was a definite foul from anyone's view. He didn't get the ball, even though it looked like it at first. He didn't even touch it. The referee's looked at the monitor. He's watched it about 20 times and still somehow come to the decision that it wasn't a foul. And, I mean, this is coming from someone who's a fan of that club. So, yeah, the officials, the rules, it does wind me up. And, when you're at the game, I know we're not at the games at the moment, but when you're at the game and you're watching, the VAR screen comes up and it says, checking potential offside. And we're all looking at each other like, what offside? Who's offside? We haven't seen any offside.
Yeah.
And it takes about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes before you even know what's going on. And then you get a quick flash of it and then it's gone. Whether the decision's been given or not, it doesn't matter because you don't even have a clue what's going on anyway. So, yeah, there's a lot about VAR that I really dislike. But I do like the fact that it's there to help. And I do agree with that to a degree. But the people using it are just complete clowns. So... All the time you've got clowns in charge of it, it's not going to work.
Even some of the fouls that have been given as red cards and stuff, and they give one for something really soft, and they give that as red cards, and then it's something be blatant, and they'll give a yellow. You're right though. It's not the VAR. The VAR's there for a reason. It's the clowns that are using it. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand why they've got referees in Stockley Park. They should have a panel referee, an ex-professional, and people that actually play the game. Because I think these referees sometimes they don't understand the rules themselves.
Maybe Mesut Ozil could do it. He's got nothing else.
He's busy. He can't do that.
Well, in terms of that conversation, I also want to throw in, this isn't my nomination, but I want to throw in the refereeing from the Palace Wolves game last night as well, because I thought it was ridiculous. I thought that the penalty that we were given and was ruled out was wrong. I thought that wasn't right, and I thought that, the red card I thought they got right as well, to be fair, but I thought things like the other fouls was just, I thought it was totally inconsistent, and I think that, again, we haven't had the worst luck with refereeing performances so far. We've had some bad ones, but there's also been teams that have had a lot worse than us. But either way, it's just, you can't be letting that sort of performance at any club sort of just get on its way. So I'm going a little bit backwards for my one, because obviously it's been a few weeks since we've last done it. I'm going, and I'm leaving England for this one. I know technically the Champions League was away from England. It's in Europe, but it was still technically in England. But anyways, I'm going for VVV Venlo in Holland, who I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm hoping I'm not butchering it, although I probably am. Losing 13-0 to Ajax at home. I understand Ajax are the best team in the league by quite comfortably, but when you're losing 13-0 at home, it's you have there's not much more you can say about that. You'll have better days, surely.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's 13-0. Yeah, that's I couldn't believe it actually. I was in the pub before. I was like, it was only 4-0 at half time, wasn't it? It was an incredible game, incredible.
Yeah. So in terms of, I think we're going to have to go for the referees, and I'm leaning more towards the Chelsea Rennes one personally, particularly because of the penalty and the red card at the end. But I'm happy to throw Spurs Brighton in there as an honourable mention / slide winner.
And the thing is, the thing is, I mean, of course, being an Arsenal fan, I'm going to slag him off a little bit. He gets called clever, but then if it was someone like, I don't know, someone like an Aubameyang, for instance, or like a Joe Linton, we get called a cheat for doing stuff like that. But as it's the darling Harry Kane who can't do no wrong, he seems to get away with it every week as well. It's like every so often, every week he dives and he gets away with it somehow.
Referee from that game is going to be dropped for this weekend. I can't remember what his name was now, but I believe he's been completely dropped though. At least they're actually punishing the refs for that bad a performance, because it was horrific.
Well, they can't do that every week is the problem, because then we'd have no referees left.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
To be fair, the game might be alright without no referees, to be fair.
Make their own decisions, see what happens then.
Yeah. Might get a bit more consistency at least. But yeah, that's about all the time we've got time for. So before we go, Ryan, where can we find you? Ryan
Adsett on Twitter, BHAFC Ryan. yeah, that's about it. I don't like to plug myself. I hate doing all that stuff. If you want to follow me, follow me. If you don't want to follow me, don't follow me.
We'll leave all the relevant links in the description. We always do. So you can find all this stuff there. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify at Let's All Laugh at a Football Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at LALA_podcast. You can find Johnny's work at Life's a Pitch. You can find all of our social media in the description. Thanks to Johnny and Andrew for joining us. Thanks to Ryan for being our guest. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.